and it's crazy. So what's happening in California is a true tragedy. I know those areas very well. I have many friends living in those houses. That is a true tragedy. Nobody ever thought. I mean, virtually Beverly Hills and areas around Beverly Hills are being decimated.
So the most powerful agent for change is the person burned by their own beliefs. And I think you're going to see that. I was just thinking, too, the reaction to the fires in L.A. kind of mirrored the reaction to crime in New York.
The biggest homes, some of the most valuable homes in the world are just destroyed. I don't even know. You know, you talk about a tax base. If those people leave, you're going to lose half your tax base of California.
California, Gavin Newsom has had a lot of time to fix these things, but he doesn't want to because they're not sexy. You know, as you pointed out in the past, he's much more interested in virtue signaling.
Trump's disaster relief plan is so bad, even a chocolate fireman would do a better job. No, seriously, it's that ridiculous. Jimmy Kimmel just exposed Trump's 4-step master plan for handling the California wildfires. And let's just say it's about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Curious about what these brilliant steps are? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Alright folks, let's dive into Trump's so-called master plan for handling the California wildfires. Spoiler alert, it's about as useful as a chocolate teapot in a heat wave. Our buddy Jimmy Kimmel just exposed this 4-step disaster of a strategy, and boy oh boy, is it a doozy. Step 1 in Trump's brilliant plan: brag about being the best, because nothing says I care like tooting your own horn while people's homes are turning into ash.
Well, it's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish.
Trace, to build off of what you were just talking about, President-elect Trump is also watching as this $50 billion 0% contained fire continues to spread, and he's got a suggestion on Truth Social. He says Governor Gavin Newsom should immediately go to Northern California and open up the water main.
Which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt. And for the sake of a smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing.
DeSantis were the governor of Florida. I'm sorry, the governor of California. Yeah. Even for a year, the things that might be different today. And I think that her being willing to go up to him and Gavin Newsom being willing to talk to her at least, rather than Karen Bass, who was just dumbfounded after 14 hours on a flight and couldn't come up with "I'm sorry."
It's like showing up to a funeral and talking about how great your hair looks. Classy move, Donnie. Next up, step 2, threaten to withhold aid. Yep, you heard that right. It's like telling a drowning person you'll only throw them a life jacket if they do your taxes first. Trump's basically holding California hostage, saying change your water policy or no help for you. What's next? Demanding the state rename itself Trumpifornia before he sends a single fire truck? But wait, there's more. Step 3 is where Trump really flexes his stable genius muscles. He makes outrageous demands that have nothing to do with the actual crisis at hand. It's like asking someone to recite the Declaration of Independence backwards while their house is on fire. Sorry, can't save your dog until you tell me who was the 23rd president. And finally, step 4, get absolutely roasted by Jimmy Kimmel on national TV. Okay, this wasn't part of Trump's original plan, but it's happening anyway, and boy is it satisfying. Kimmel didn't pull any punches, pointing out that only a truly awful person would use disaster relief as a bargaining chip. It's like holding a fire extinguisher for ransom at a barbecue gone wrong. But Kimmel didn't stop there. He went after Trump's tiny hands, saying they were perfect for snatching away California's much needed aid. Ouch, that's gotta hurt more than a sunburn on Trump's orange face. Now, you might be wondering, how did this genius disaster plan backfire so spectacularly? Well, turns out that when you act like a heartless buffoon on national TV, people tend to notice. Who knew? Experts are shaking their heads faster than Trump can tweet witch hunt. They're saying that attaching conditions to disaster relief is not just unethical, it's a recipe for disaster on top of the actual disaster.
And we're going to get that done. It's going to finally be done. I got it done from the federal side, and he didn't want to sign it, but it's not going to happen again like that.
With this new administration, you have a lot of different people that will be there, and one of them is Governor Doug Burgum of North Dakota. He understands these issues very, very well and will be instrumental in helping make this happen.
There's no reason. Can you imagine? You have farmers that don't have any water in California. They have plenty of water. They don't have a drought. They send it out to the Pacific.
And then Brooke Rollins over at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, they oversee forests. So I think you're going to see a concentrated effort to make sure this doesn't happen again. But we're just at that tipping point of understanding the scope and scale of this disaster.
It's like throwing gasoline on a fire and calling it a solution. And get this, some Republicans are actually backing Trump's bonkers idea. Ohio Representative Warren Davidson suggested that Congress should withhold disaster relief until California changes its forest management practices. Because apparently the best time to discuss policy changes is when everything's literally on fire. You know, folks, while Trump's playing with matches in California, Jimmy Kimmel's been busy lighting a different kind of fire under the former president's behind. And let me tell you, it's been more satisfying than watching a dumpster full of MAGA hats go up in smoke. Kimmel's not just cracking jokes anymore. He's on a full-blown comedy crusade trying to save democracy one punchline at a time. It's like he's Batman, but instead of a utility belt full of gadgets, he's got an arsenal of zingers that'd make even the Joker cry. But here's the kicker. Kimmel's not just going after Trump's appearance. Sure, that orange tan is always fair game, but our late night hero is aiming for something bigger, Trump's character, or lack thereof if we're being honest. During one of his monologues, Kimmel hit Trump with a burn hotter than those California wildfires. He called Trump's visit to the state the first time in history that a natural disaster will be visited by an even bigger natural disaster. Ouch. Someone better call the burn unit because Grumpy Trumpy's gonna need some aloe vera for that one. But Kimmel's not alone in this comedy crusade. Late night hosts across the board are trading in their joke books for political science textbooks. It's like a nerd revolution, but with better punchlines. These comedians are using humor as their weapon of choice against Trump's policies.
And it's crazy. So what's happening in California is a true tragedy. I know those areas very well. I have many friends living in those houses. That is a true tragedy. Nobody ever thought. I mean, virtually Beverly Hills and areas around Beverly Hills are being decimated.
So the most powerful agent for change is the person burned by their own beliefs. And I think you're going to see that. I was just thinking, too, the reaction to the fires in L.A. kind of mirrored the reaction to crime in New York.
The biggest homes, some of the most valuable homes in the world are just destroyed. I don't even know. You know, you talk about a tax base. If those people leave, you're going to lose half your tax base of California.
California, Gavin Newsom has had a lot of time to fix these things, but he doesn't want to because they're not sexy. You know, as you pointed out in the past, he's much more interested in virtue signaling.
It's like they're hosting a nightly roast of the former president and everyone's invited, except maybe Trump himself. He's probably too busy tweeting about witch hunts to tune in. Kimmel's takedown is sharper than Trump's golf pencil. He's not just going for laughs, he's going for change. In one particularly poignant moment, Kimmel said, "Tonight, I don't want to get into all the vile and irresponsible and stupid things our alleged future president and his gaggle of scumbags chose to say during our darkest and most terrifying hour." Wow, that's not just a joke, that's a straight up indictment. But here's where it gets real. Kimmel emphasized the human impact of the wildfires, noting that many of us had to leave our homes in a hurry. Some of our co-workers lost their homes. This personal connection to the tragedy underlines just how serious the situation is, and it makes Trump's dismissive remarks look even worse. It's like Donnie Diapers is playing with a toy fire truck while real people's lives are going up in flames. So what's Trump's secret 4-step plan for messing up disaster relief? According to Kimmel, brag, threaten, demand, and get roasted on national TV. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. Well, folks, it looks like the battle of wits between Kimmel and Trump is over, and our late night hero has come out on top. Who knew comedy could be such a powerful weapon against political nonsense? While Grumpy Trumpy plays games with people's lives, Kimmel and his fellow funny men are using laughter to speak truth to power. It's like they're throwing pies at the emperor with no clothes, and boy is it satisfying to watch. As for Trump's so-called disaster relief plan, let's just say it's about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Maybe next time he'll think twice before trying to use people's suffering as a bargaining chip. But who are we kidding? This is Trump we're talking about. He'd probably try to sell bottled water to flood victims if he thought he could make a buck.